Darren, obviously you are in the Usyk camp, but a lot of talk about is that, but you actually have a fight of your own coming up in February, I believe. So could you just
Yeah,
talk to me a bit about that? Because I'm sure, as people know, it's a rematch, right? You had this fight last year, and now you're going out
yeah,
there again against Phil Williams for the second time.
yeah. So it's a rematch, as you said, February 10th. So just over a couple of weeks away now, and really looking forward to it. I've been trying to get the rematch for a good few months now. Either he wasn't available, and then if it wasn't a rematch, it was someone else we were looking at. And then three fights fell through. They pulled out due to injury and other things as well. So it's been a bit of a tricky 12 months getting back into the ring, but I think this has all set me up to get him back in the ring on the 10th of Feb. And yeah, looking forward to it. The first meeting didn't go how I had planned, but due to external factors and things that we've completely taken care of now, should be a good night of boxing, and I'm looking forward to it.
So for those who obviously don't know that first fight didn't go as planned. I think you since then you've switched gyms, as you said. I think you were with Barry Healy for that fight, who's a Great Britain top team coach. I think he's worked with a few MMA guys of late, and now I think you're at TW1 in Essex. So can you sort of talk to me about a bit about that, whether that is still the case? I'm not sure if you've sort of changed gyms since then. Now we're in the new year. What's the sort of plan for this fight next month?
Yeah, just to correct you, I wasn't with Barry. I worked with Barry for about just over a year, and then I left Barry in about 2021, so over 2 years ago now. And then I went to another coach based in Croydon, and then he's the one that I left to go to Billy in TW1 in Essex. For me, that was the biggest change that I could have made. Me and Barry split on good terms, still talk frequently. He's a lovely guy. But in terms of my previous coach, I don't want to give him any free publicity. Yeah, it was just one of those things where I needed to move on from that situation and just be in a better mental headspace. Because as you know, and everybody should know, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. And I wasn't exactly in the happiest of places. So going to Billy, I've been with him now since July last year. It's the best change I could have made for my career, for me mentally, physically, emotionally. He's an amazing person, but also an amazing coach. He works closely with Tony Sims out of Matchroom, so I'm affiliated with the the best gym in the UK, and for me, Billy is one of the best coaches in the UK as well. So yeah, it's been a great change and definitely onwards and upwards. And I always say to Billy, I'm 0-0 with him. We I feel like now I'm actually going to make my appropriate, proper professional debut. All of the things we've been doing and all the things I've seen and people I've been working with, yeah, it's been nothing but a blessing. So yeah, he's TW1 in Ongar in Essex, and yeah, that's where we're at.
Mm. So obviously you said, you almost see it as like you're at 0-0 because by the time this fight happens, it would almost be a year, right? So I think it's about 11 months since the first fight.
Yeah,
What are the main changes you've sort of made with Billy? You're coming in against a guy in Phil who's pushing the 60 fight mark now, and
yeah.
it's the second fight of your career. So what do you think the main difference is between this point last year and now?
Main focus, I remember him saying it to me within the first week of training with him, was just being aggressive and using my height. I'm 6'9", so obviously, I'm very tall for a boxer. Tyson Fury's height, hence why we're sparring the people that we're sparring. But in terms of me using my attributes, my long reach, I feel and I know I've got very good footwork for a boxer. I came from playing professional basketball for about 10 years, so I'm used to moving laterally. I know how to stay light on my feet. So those are the main things that we wanted to work on, using my natural power and using my range. So, I'm fighting as if I'm 6'9". I'm working on different phases, being able to fight nice and long and strong, but then being able to sit down on my punches and really whack with the best of them. That's really important for me. So those are the main two changes we've made, definitely.
Something I have to ask, I'm not sure if you've got this before. Obviously, it's heavily discussed that you're involved in that in Ngannou camp for the Fury fight. A lot has been
Yeah.
made of whether Fury is actually 6'9" or not. Looking at your time in the ring, you definitely look 6'9". Were you able to sort of size Fury up? Did he look the same height as you during that week in Saudi or not?
No, I didn't actually get to be close to Fury, unfortunately. It would have been nice to see, but I know I'm legitimately 6'9". So if I'm looking somebody in the eye, or if they're just a little bit taller than me, I'm like, well, yeah, you're up there. But no, I haven't met him in person.
Mm. something I want to speak about with that Ngannou fight is I think you were the only one of the only people that I saw sort of saying that it wouldn't be a mismatch going
Mm.
into that fight. All the pundits were like, this is going to be just an easy fight for Fury. He's just going to breeze into the Usyk fight, but it was anything but that. You obviously sparred Francis. Why did you think from that? Did you sort of think before you sparred Francis this was going to be one sided, then maybe you sparred him and changed your mind, or was that something that you always thought?
Yeah, good question. To answer the first part, I never thought it was going to be one-sided because any champion is a champion for a reason. So, it's never going to be an easy night's work. Fury wouldn't have taken the fight, and I don't think it would have been publicized as much as it was if everybody was like, "Oh, it's a walkover." And then, secondly, after sparring him, I was just as solidified in my opinion as I was beforehand. He's a very, very strong man. As everybody knows, you don't want to take a clean punch from him, let alone any heavyweight. But especially him, he's up there with the strongest. I saw him work diligently. There was no stone left unturned. Obviously, I was inside the camp, so it was a blessing and an honor to be there. But in terms of his work rate, his mental fitness and fortitude, I think that's what really separates a lot of boxers from the elite. So he I'm sure everybody knows his story. He's really up there with some incredible stories. His biopic will be amazing. So I think overall he definitely has had the skill set then and has it now. So that's why he's moving on to these huge nights, and he is well deserved because he put on a great performance.
You've obviously sparred so many boxers during your career. I'm not sure how many guys from an MMA background you sparred, but with Francis, something that a lot of people said is when you come from that MMA background, you don't really move the same way as a boxer. You've got sort of different patterns. Did you feel that way when you sparred him? Was there some stuff that he did where you're like, this isn't, obviously, I know he started out in boxing and sort of convinced to change over to MMA, but
Yeah.
did you spar him and sort of think this is not something that a boxer would usually do or not?
Yeah, he had some unconventional methods, but they worked in his favor because as a pure boxer myself, I've never thrown a kick, I've never, grappled, I've never done a takedown. So there were certain uh, side movements that he could do. Obviously, we saw him switch in the ring, which would come a lot easier for him from his MMA background. It's quite hard for boxers to be able to switch stances. So yeah, I felt he was unconventional, but his unconventional methods worked for him in his favor. But to us, they might not be something we do every day. We saw the Superman punch on Fury in the last round. Like not boxers aren't going to throw that. So yeah, he definitely had some varied movement patterns to say the least, and they worked for him. He did great.
Hmm. What was it like being alongside Dewey Cooper, Eric Nixick, his MMA coaches? And I'm not sure if you were able to spend any time with Mike Tyson during the camp because he was sort of in and out, I believe. But it was mainly Dewey and Eric, right, during that. And I know I believe he had a French boxing coach as well. I can't recall the name, but what was that sort of like being in amongst his coaches during the camp?
It was great. It was great overall, just to soak up the atmosphere. I was in Saudi with them. Obviously, they came from Vegas and they were doing their camp in other places. But just to transition there, where he was at his fittest, he was, deep, deep into camp. That was really, really cool. Just picking their brain. Dewey was always, open door policy, always great to talk to. It's lovely meeting Eric. He wasn't there the time that I landed, but he came a few days after. And he's as lovely as everybody says he is. He's a really, really nice person. And then his French coach as well. He was really everybody, the whole team were really cool, man. It was really nice. And I think going from having one professional fight to one of the biggest camps for the biggest fights of last year, a big transition. So for me, it instilled me with a lot of self-confidence, a lot of self-belief, and being able to hang with those types of characters, albeit coaches or boxers, MMA fighters. I knew I belong in this world. So it really helped me.
Do you think his upcoming fight with Anthony will be as close as the Tyson one or not?
I don't think it'll be as close, to be fair. I have to call it how I see it. I'm going to be open and honest, but he will definitely work diligently and do everything that he needs to do to be able to fight someone like Anthony Joshua. But every boxer is different. You never know what can happen on the night. But it all comes down to your preparation and to how hard you work in your camp. I think you can only you can't just blame yourself if things don't go to plan, but your team around you, as long as they prepare him, and I'm sure Anthony Joshua is preparing as much as he needs to, it'll be a great night.
With the that Fury fight, when it came to that sort of 10th round, we were all watching at home. A lot of people thought that Francis had done enough. I believe you must have been ringside for that. Did you think the same or not?
I thought he had done enough. Definitely, I think there was a few surprised eyes at that card reading, but it was unfortunate. But I think this is even just another page to the Francis Ngannou story. You know, it's like, okay, you can be knocked down. You can, for years he fought to get into the country, into his country, sorry, and do what he needed to do. So yeah, just another page that is going to be readable, but it'll all come to fruition in the end. So yeah, I was quite surprised, and there were definitely a few surprised people in the place.
Now, with the Usyk camp, I'm not going to ask you about sparring and this and that, but something I've noticed you've been putting on your sort of Instagram stories is stuff like chess, sort of Usyk as a person. I'm sure you've had lots
Mm.
of interesting stories comparing the Francis camp to the Usyk camp.
Yeah.
Being in and around him, sparring aside, as a person, what's it been like sort of being out in Saudi again, but this time with a very different character rather than the Francis in Oleksandr Usyk?
Well, every box is different. They bring their own personalities. Every fight is different, but I just feel seeing the heavyweight world champ and his types of mental preparation and the things that he's been going through in the camp has been nothing short of incredible. It's been amazing to be part of it and be in the ring with him. But outside of the ring, he's a lovely character. Definitely not imposing. Doesn't think the sun doesn't shine out, whatever, all of that stuff. Very, very nice, relaxed person. In terms of chess, that's just my personal hobby. I play at least 2-3 hours a day, and just asking anybody who will give me a game, because for me, I'm not sure if you know, but Lennox Lewis, a keen player, Anthony Joshua, a keen player. Even people like Will Smith, taught by grandmasters. So my brother taught me, and my mom taught me when I was very young, and it's something I've carried through my life moving forward. I think it has a lot of close correlation with boxing, especially from thinking moves ahead. Is same with boxing, analyzing pieces, setting up traps, all boxing.
I'm sure. Well, hopefully this is something you're allowed to say. Who gets the better of the chess games with you and Alexander?
I haven't played on it, Sander. I
Ah,
haven't played. No. These are friends and sparring partners and people on the team and stuff that I'm playing. But I can proudly say that I'm doing well. I'm getting the better of a few people. So yeah, people are usually surprised. I'm like, I play. I tell them I play a lot, and they don't believe me, and then we play them, on to the next person. Yeah.
what's the main things you've learned about yourself compared to the Ngannou camp and the Usyk camp? Because obviously, what, a couple months apart, you're 3, 4 months apart now. But
Mm.
as I said, the developments for you as a boxer has probably been huge. You've been involved in arguably two of the biggest heavyweight fights of the last decade, and
Yeah.
a main sparring partner for both of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. To put it in a sort of long story short, I think it's just confidence. I needed a lot of I'd say a couple mental battles that I had to overcome, working with the previous coach and the situation that I was in, just certain personal issues as well. And I just wasn't in a happy place. And I kind of took boxing for granted because I was doing well in the white collar scene. I was doing well in the amateurs, and I wasn't putting in as much work as I needed to as a person. And then the team around me weren't necessarily, pushing me to as hard as I needed to. And I feel, as I said earlier, going to Billy and TW1 and being affiliated with Matchroom from July, in August, the Ngannou camp came. And then shortly after that, the Usyk camp came. So, I was obviously doing something right. But just after I took the loss in March, I started working with a sports psychologist, Lee Johnson from Sport Mode UK. And he completely changed Darren as a person, not just as a boxer, but as a man. And it really helped me to be able to put my best self forward. Try to look for these opportunities, and then if I am granted them, show, actions speak louder than words, but show my action is in the ring, show my hands, and show people what I'm made of. So I think it's such a huge leap that people who are on social media or the press are surprised, but I had to really start believing in myself, and I think that's going to be shown on February 10th. And I'm very excited to get my career started with my head coach Billy.
Mm. As someone who is 6'9", so tall, and you've been in there with Usyk. What do you think the biggest thing, speaking for someone who is your height, the biggest thing that Tyson is maybe going to struggle against, or something that you maybe have struggled against maybe smaller fighters in the past who move like Usyk? I don't really know if anyone moves like him, but what do you see maybe on fight night, something that he's going to struggle to deal with?
I think just the output and the pace. You know, we're longer, which is great. We have an advantage, but it also takes us a little longer to get the punch going because we've got so much reach, so much biomechanically. It's just natural. It's how the human body is made up. So I think just the pace of ongoing punches, ongoing output. You know, just changing the pace, changing the levels, hitting different shots, shot selection, different angles. Overall, albeit Oleksandr Usyk or any shorter fighter, it can be tricky if they have a really good pace. So, you know, he is the best at it, and he's the best to do it. Undisputed at cruiserweight, likely undisputed at heavyweight in less than a month. So, for me, I feel Fury will struggle with that greatly.
Mm. Second to last question. Can I ask, I'm not sure if you can, for your sort of official predictions on that fight, and given you work with Ngannou, the AJ Ngannou fight, you're allowed to make the predictions. If so, what are you thinking?
Uh, yeah, I'll start with AJ and Ngannou. I'm quite on the fence, but I do feel AJ will get the win. I'm not sure exactly how, but I do feel it's no knock on Ngannou. I'm just basing it on experience and what I've seen from Anthony Joshua, especially the last few fights now, and working with Ben Davison. And then with Usyk Fury, Fury will maybe start out strong, keep it nice and long, but Usyk will take maybe a couple of rounds, start working him out, analyze the situation like the master that he is, and he will be victorious on the night. So yeah, Oleksandr Usyk by victory, whether late rounds or by unanimous decision, and AJ win.
Mm. And finally, you yourself, you've got a big 2024 ahead, obviously starting with this rematch that you're hoping to avenge. What's your sort of plans for the year? How many times are you hoping to be out there? Obviously, it's your second fight, but do you sort of look that far ahead, or is it mainly just, tackling this one against Phil and then maybe going from there?
Take one fight at a time, definitely. So I'm looking ahead to February 10th. Very excited for that. But I've planned with my current promoter 5 fights for the year. So get the record 5-1, and just start hopefully jumping a few more hurdles and smashing a few more walls by then. But being part of a few more camps would be amazing as well. I'm loving the experience of going around the world, meeting other boxers, sparring partners, making relationships, building friendships, getting sparring with different levels and people who have achieved much more than me at the present moment. So that's the plan for 2024. We'll just get the February 10th victory, and then 4 more fights minimum. If I could fight every month, personally, I would. I love to fight. I love to spar. I love the training. I love what it does for you. So as many fights as possible, but I have at least 5 this year.